If you're a real estate agent that has a listing that hasn't sold, this is the video for you. I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about how to get a price reduction you know you need that's going to help you get that home sold. All right, so what we're seeing a lot of right now is we're seeing the average days on market in most markets across the country go up, and some markets dramatically go up. We're seeing more inventory, so we are having our listings have a little more difficulty standing out, and we're even seeing listings that are expiring, which we didn't see for years. So what is it that we can do as a listing agent to get the price reductions that position the property to be able to be sold? Here's the problem is a lot of times what happens is we don't communicate in a way that gets the seller prepped for that. So I'm going to start with number one. The first thing to do is set the expectations right out of the gate. When you go into a listing, be very communicative about what's going on in the market, the increase in the inventory, the days on market going up. So talk to them about the things you're going to do in a marketing perspective to launch the listing in a way that's going to give you the ability to get maximum exposure. The second thing we want to talk to them about is that, hey, listen, we're going to get feedback from the market within a few weeks of exactly where we are based on the number of showings, whether we get offers or not, whether we don't have any showings. All of those things are going to give us feedback that I will then process. And then my job is to come back to you and give you that information in a way that you can make the best decision for you and your family. That may include, because we're in a market where the market is surprising us. During the pandemic, and when we see the market going up like crazy, the market can sometimes surprise us to the upside. That's the norm in those situations. When we're more flat, we're seeing days on market like this, sometimes it can surprise us to the downside. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we maximize the opportunity, but after we get the feedback, I want to have the opportunity to come back to you and talk about pricing if and when we might need to make a price reduction. If you do that up front, you set the stage. Now, if you didn't do that and you've got a listing now, I'm going to talk about a couple of the things that we can do now to begin to set the stage so that we can get on the same side of the table with that seller to get this price reduction and get this move. The second thing you can do is keep the seller informed throughout the listing process of what's going on, not just with their house, but with the overall market. Now, here's the thing is the number one complaint, if you Google it, that consumers have for listings or for real estate agents in general is that they don't communicate enough. Here's what I like to do. I like to have every Friday where I would email all of my listings an update on what's happened with their home and with the market during that week. Now, once I got to where I was carrying 50 listings, I was doing it every other week. I like to use BombBomb where I was recording the video, because if I had to make these calls, you know how there's certain these people that you're going to call and they're going to want to talk for 20, 30 minutes. How do you get efficient with this? And what I did is I would simply say, hey, here's your weekly update on exactly what's going on with your place as well as the overall market. And then I would share my screen and I would go through and I would talk about the showings we had, the marketing we did that week, or the lack of showings we had. One of the things that a lot of agents do is they're worried because they don't have anything to tell their people. Well, what you can do is you can give them an update on the market. Now, one of the things that's great about doing it every week is you can see what the numbers were the previous week just by going back and looking at that email you sent the week before if you need to. But I like to tell them this past week in your price range, $25,000 above and $25,000 below, there were an additional X number of listings that came on the market. There were this many number of houses that went under contract, and these actually sold. And basically, I'm just giving them a snapshot of the competition they have or that's coming on the market or coming off the market to give them a better understanding of what's happening. It also does this. If you're in a market where very few things are selling and you come on and you say there were no homes that went pending in your price range this past week, it gives us an understanding that the market is a little bit slower. So maybe it's not as alarming that we didn't have as many showings this week. You see, it gives you the ability to compare not just what's happening with theirs, where they're comparing what you're doing to whether it's selling or not, to what's going on in the overall market. When you do this, it also gives them a better understanding that when we get to the point where we get to ask for this, that we've communicated enough information where they can make that best decision for them. The third thing is to get and provide feedback from every single showing. Now, look, this is one of those that I just can't understand. I know sometimes agents are difficult to get the feedback from. You've got to be persistent. You have to have a plan of action in place to get that feedback, because that feedback is going to be, in most cases, if the people didn't like it, exactly what they didn't like. They thought it was overpriced. They didn't like the smell of cat pee in the house. Whatever it is, you got to think about what it is, the feedback that you're getting, because if it's coming from another agent and you're just facilitating the information, it's harder for them to get upset with you about that information. If we're just coming in and we're the one telling them these things, then it's totally different than the market or other agents in the marketplace telling them what's really going on. Now, if you haven't had showings and you want some of these types of feedback, make sure that you are hosting open houses where you can get some of the feedback from actual people that come into the home. Again, the more feedback you can provide, the more information you can provide, the more you are going to basically soften the opportunity that conversation is going to go smoothly with the plan of action we're going to put together to get that price reduction that we all know we're going to need to get the home sold. The next step I mentioned was to get the feedback from those that had showed the house. But what if you aren't having showings? I talked about open houses to get consumers feedback, but how do we get agents feedback on the home if we haven't had any showings? Because in reality, those agent feedback cards that we can do anonymously, but I like to print those and I just scanned them and emailed them right to, so it's unfiltered, that it's coming right there and they can see it in their handwriting what these agents did. How do you do this? Number one is you can host an agent open house. Do a drawing. I'll tell you right now, you offer free lunch, you offer some type of giveaway, and you get the information out to agents, they'll show up and they'll give you feedback. Also, think about getting your home on a tour. If you have a local MLS tour or a company tour or something where you can get feedback from other agents. And lastly, if you haven't had this, just invite 8 or 10 of your friends that are in the office that are agents and say, look, I'll be glad to do this for you, but would you come by my house and take a look at this listing, and then I want your honest feedback. I'm going to have a sheet that you can fill out on what you think, if there's anything we can do to improve to get the house sold. I'm going to ask you where you think the pricing is. I'm going to ask you if there's anything that we can do to really present this home better in a better way. These are going to be feedback that's going to, again, soften the opportunity and an understanding of the feedback you're getting. So it's not just coming from you, it's coming from people that are in the market working to get the home sold as well. The next step, we talked about doing the weekly update on what's going on in the market, but if you've got a listing that's been out there for a month, 2 months, 3 months, do an updated CMA. Show them in writing the houses that sold. If there was a price adjustment, maybe it was flat or it pulled down, or maybe it was higher, how those houses that actually sold or went pending actually compare to their house. Now, this gives us the ability, again, to give more information. The more information we give, the more that we're going to have an opportunity to be able to get the things done that we know that we need to do. Again, make sure that you're fully giving them all the details on everything that's going on in the market. By doing this updated CMA, the way that I like to present this is, hey, it's been a month since we've been on the market. I want to give you an understanding. Right before we put it on the market, I did an updated evaluation of exactly what your price is and what the value is. I want to give you an updated one on what's happened in the last few weeks so you can understand positioning-wise where we are now in the market versus where we were when we first put it on the market. By doing so, you're absolutely going to get better results. All right, now we've prepared the ground, so to speak, and now we're ready to ask for that price reduction. One of the worst things you can do is just go in and just say, hey, we need to reduce the price. We need to go in with a plan of action. So what is it that you can do to do a relaunch strategy? You're going to see on the screen here a bullet point thing that I like to put together where I'm talking about the things that we're going to do. Again, this is just to give you an idea of some things that you can do, but you ought to have a strategy that gives you that capability. Communicating to the seller and understanding that you have a specific strategy. I'm going to tell you how we do this here. Number one is that we talk about the fact that what we want to do is that by doing a price reduction, it is going to give us the ability to relaunch our marketing with this price improvement. I like that language a lot better than price reduction. It gives us that ability then to understand also that the second that we make this adjustment in the MLS with the price reduction, it moves it to the top of the search for the portals like Zillow, Realtor.com, all of the search portals for 48 hours. What I like to communicate to them so that they see that we're actually doing a strategy is that I talk to them about that we're going to launch this actually on a Thursday because that is the most searched day in our current market, in our market, that we have search on all of these sites for our local real estate market. So we're giving them a strategy. We're talking about how we're going to relaunch it on social media. You'll see that in the bullet points. We're going to use AI to get a new, to do some price improvement advertising. We're going to talk about how we're going to call the other agents that have shown it in the past. We're going to talk about how we're going to relaunch it to our entire database with the price improvement. We're going to talk about all of these things. Now, what we're doing is we're putting all of this together, which takes us to the 7th step. And the most important is the actual presentation. So here's how the presentation I like to do this is. Hey, my job is to give you the best information possible so that we can get the results that you guys are looking for, which is selling the house. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk to you about something that we can do together because I don't think it ought to be just you doing something. I want to talk to you about what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 15 to 20 different marketing things along this line. But I need you to do one thing, and that is that we need to reduce this price in a way so that I can begin the marketing of this property again to get it back to the top of the search portals and to get the attention. Unfortunately, we've been on the market for a little while now, and the market is telling us that as of right now, it appears it is not going to be willing to yield us an offer or yield the price we're looking for. Another little bit of language that I like to do is people say, well, we want to leave room for negotiations. What I say is I would rather be in a place where we were negotiating saying no with a counteroffer or coming back with a less of a counteroffer than not negotiating at all. The key is we want as many people to come through the door as possible, and by reducing this price, we get them in the house, they fall in love with the house the same way you did when you bought it, and a few extra $1,000 is probably not going to make all the difference in getting this done. The first thing is to get them through the door. This price improvement is going to get them through the door, especially with the marketing I'm going to do, and it's going to give us the ability to start negotiating with some potential offers to get this place sold. You see, when you have a plan of action, when you communicate it properly, and when you understand and know the market, because you've done the research, you know what's happening in the market and you've communicated to them, I promise you're going to get more of those price reductions, you're going to get more of these homes sold, and you're going to see your business grow. Be the pro they deserve. They need the best information possible. Give it to them, and give it to them in a way that gives them the ability to do what they ultimately want to do, which is get the house sold. I hope this has been helpful, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.